out here at the range this morning, came out here to get my bore dirty on this gun and confirm the zero. Came back from the NRL Hunter Pro-Am, which I shot a couple weekends ago. Went to Arizona, shot the NRL Hunter Pro-Am, went to SHOT Show, came home, cleaned this gun, and then I ran JB bore paste through it as well. So I really cleaned out this bore, and I wanted to come out here to just make sure everything's good. So I only fired 6 rounds. That's all I needed. Fired a few rounds to kind of just get the bore dirty and warm it up, and then adjusted a tenth of a mil left, and then fired 3 more rounds, and I was good. So we're good here, but I want to take a few moments while I'm out here today before I go home to just do an after-action report of the NRL Hunter Pro-Am in Paulden, Arizona. I recorded a range vlog, or I tried to. I released it a couple weeks ago. Well, it was a couple episodes ago. And I didn't get as much footage as I wanted to with my Trigger Cam 2.1 Plus, which is I ran on my ZC420. And it's all because I didn't get the camera synced up. Like sometimes I hit the GoPro and the Trigger Cam wasn't working, and Trigger Cam, I pressed the button and for some reason the GoPro died. That would be equated mainly to the cold weather, but we'll get into that in a few moments. But I just didn't have enough synced footage of 15 stages that I only released like a few stages. And my best stages I didn't get recorded. A couple like clean I didn't get recorded. So it's unfortunate I can put that in the range vlog. In any case, let's just go ahead and dive into the after-action report for that NRL Hunter Pro-Am. First off, if you saw that range vlog, or if you didn't, go watch it. The Pro-Am is designed such that you have a professional shooter and an amateur shooter. I registered as an amateur because my scores aren't all that great in NRL Hunter, and everyone's asking, hey, why did you register as pro? I'm like, well, I'm not really great in this format, so I registered an AM. But here's how it goes. You get paired with a pro, and when you're in that squad, the pro will shoot first, and you can actually watch the pro shoot the stage, which ends up being kind of like you're shooting as a skills division person, even though you register as amateur. And so you get to watch them, and then when you come up after them, you get to actually get coached. So they'll actually, on the clock, they'll actually help you out if you need to, and they'll actually call out targets for you. However, I asked my pro not to do that. I said, you know what, I want to just shoot this normally. If you see some things wrong, you can go and like, feel free to tell me after the stage or whatever. But I really want to just shoot this as if I were competing, because I need the practice, right? The whole thing is being able to find targets. And believe it or not, I actually found all my targets except one, which I wasn't really sure if that was shooting at the right thing in the bushes or in the trees, but I found all my targets. And I think that's also due to the fact that the Pro-Am was a little bit easier because they wanted the stages to be a little bit more accessible to newer shooters. And so that's why I feel like I found all my targets. There were very few, I don't recall how many 4-target stages there were, but I was able to find all my targets, which I was very happy. And I didn't score very well, though. I only shot a 65 out of 15 possible stages, 65 points out of whatever 15 times 8 is. There were 16 expected stages, but they dropped one because the mover went down. I didn't get to shoot that mover. I shot another mover, which was my first stage. I actually did pretty well in that. 3 first-round hits, timed out on the 4th hit, or the 4th shot. But I was happy there, but I didn't get to shoot that other mover. As far as like things that went well, I just feel like finding the targets went well for me. And I think I'm just used to the match now. I understand the format. However, there are a few things that I discovered after I shot that match, and let's talk about those things. First off, the immediate concern was when we were in the carts getting trucked down to the firing area, the stages. I was holding my rifle in the cart. We're in the back of those carts, the hay carts, and I was holding my rifle like this, and I was kind of holding it, and then I was kind of just squeezing my forend and my barrel, and I was thinking, why is it moving? Like it's really shifting, and I was like, oh crap, something came loose. And so once I got to the stage that I was supposed to start on, I dropped everything, opened my toolkit, and started messing with this, and I thought it was the action screws at first, but come to find out, it was the forend screw came loose. And so I tightened it up, and that resolved my issue. But day 2, it also happened. And so I ended up coming home, cleaning everything out, stripped everything out. I torqued it down to spec, which was 25 inch pounds. I was doing 15, which is kind of probably why it came loose on day 2. and I Loctite it as well. But in speaking with other people about the MDT HNT26, this has been, they've discovered some issues such as the fore end being a problem. I've also talked to some people said you probably want to bed this chassis, and I bought this little piece that you add in here that you stiffen up the chassis, and you can also bed it, like gives you a surface point to bed it. I may do that, but I'll probably wait till after the Mason Valley match, which I'm going to shoot in a couple weeks, before I do that, because we're going to have to do some work on this thing. And it was my understanding that they're probably going to release a second gen of this, or kind of a rolling revision, like just quietly release a rolling revision of this chassis with some certain modifications to fix this fore end issue. But I discovered that. And then I think the main issue that I discovered is all, after shooting a Pro-Am, is that the cold changes everything. I don't shoot in cold weather. I'm in SoCal, and so it was 20 degrees on day one and about 14, 15 degrees on day two starting out. And I'll tell you right now, first off, cold killed my feet. Like, I didn't have insulated shoes, and I'm not used to that. My body was fine. Everything in my body was fine. It was my feet that were dying. Like, just trying, you got to the point where you start stumbling just standing, because your feet are just so, like, your toes are just losing it. And so you got to maintain circulation and just walking around, running around, jumping and stuff. But that was the one thing that immediately affected me. So I really had to warm up my feet for that match. But aside from affecting my feet and the cold affected a lot of my gear. Batteries are one thing. So I mentioned my cameras were kind of failing. That's a little bit of an issue as far as the cameras, right? Whatever. However, what it ended up affecting me is my timers. So I was running my MDT timer on the side of the rifle, and I'll just take it off here so you can see it, but I had it on the side of my rifle. I have a thumb screw here, Area 419 mount, and then I was hitting this on day one, and then like in the middle of the day one stages, I would press it when he said, hey, time starts now, and then I would notice it, like it stopped, like it wasn't on. Come to find out, the battery was low. It's all because the cold weather killed it. Day two, same deal. And it's unfortunate this was not working, and I tried to go to my backup. And so let me get this on here before I lose it here. I don't want to lose this. I have my backup timer in here somewhere. Sorry, I'm using this big rock that they unearthed here at the range. I'll try not to stumble here. But I have my timer in my pack, my backup timer. And this is this Amazon special, the Spur Scientific timer that everyone uses. 1, 2, 3, 4. I had this in my pack. Unfortunately, it was kind of on, and then once I hit go, it went blank because the cold killed the battery. And this has seen some use, and I was stuck without it. And so I was relying on these stage ROs for time. But one of my squad mates had a spare timer, which he wasn't using, another one of these, so I borrowed his. So let's go back to, I guess, batteries. What I learned here is that you really need to go ahead and swap out all your batteries to make sure everything is, there's something back there. I think it's just, oh, birds. Sorry, it's birds back there. You really have to make sure that all your batteries are new. If you're going into cold weather, that's just the unfortunate aspect, because if they're just barely used, even if they're barely used or like half used in the cold weather, it'll just drain out. I was fortunate, where's my mic? I was fortunate that my batteries in my binos were fine. So there's actually been a problem with these Vector X's that are being reported, where people are complaining that these don't work in anything like below 15 degrees, below 20 degrees, like 20 and below, 20 degrees Fahrenheit and below. Like, the batteries don't work. I think it's all predicated because they're using CR123As. I am using the 18650 batteries. So if you use the 18650, it's like a larger battery. It's kind of like two CR123s, but not really. But it's kind of equivalent to that. You should have no problems. And I actually carried a spare 18650 cold weather battery from Nightcore in my pack, so just in case. But fortunately, this worked fine, no issues whatsoever. However, I did check my backup Ray Laser rangefinder, which I keep in here as my Sig Kilo 8K. Tried this 8K, and it was dead in the cold weather. So this uses a CR2. And that's just another emphasis on making sure your batteries are fresh for the cold weather, and you got to be ready and prepared if your batteries fail. So, cold weather and batteries. The other item was cold weather and tape. So, if you can see here, I have this painter's tape on the side of my pack, and what I would do, at least last year when I first shot these matches, is I had my arm board here. And you can see I have paint on here. And what I would do is put it on my arm, and then write down, as I laid things on my binos, I would just write down on my card what the dope is. And so that's great. And I would peel this off and peel off the roll and put it on here and have it for the next stage. Unfortunately, I discovered get that back in there. This does not peel in cold weather. It actually just kind of like rips and tears. And I was like, oh crap. What am I doing here? So I would spend time with my knife just trying to just peel off a sheet that would be usable. I didn't bring vinyl cards, and so I'm going to switch. I don't think I brought it with me. It might be in the vehicle, but I bought just a Velcro band from Armageddon Gear. I could just bought anything, for somewhere else, but Armageddon Gear with Velcro vinyl cards, I was throwing on there instead of having the arm board. So what I'm going to do is run the vinyl card on Velcro, but tape on the vinyl card. So I can go either vinyl card if it's cold with like wet erase, or go tape if it's wet, like raining, and then I can just put tape on top of that. So that's kind of the thing I need to switch to. So I didn't account for that. It's something to know about. Like this tape is working fine now, and I can peel it, and it should peel off correctly. So that's the other thing I discovered in the cold. So it's these little weird nuances. Other than that, I think the rest of my gear went okay. Put my trigger cam in here, otherwise I don't want to drop it or anything. As far as all my other gear, everything went well. I'll bust open my pack. Relatively light load for such a relatively big pack. This is the Approach 2800 from Stone Glacier. Just splay it all out here. As far as my gear, I did have a backup bipod, which is my T-back. Didn't use it, but I had it just in case. I did have my boonie hat in here, which I didn't need because it wasn't needed because it was cold, and I was just using my beanie. And then I just put my granola bars in here, my protein bars. Didn't even need first aid, thankfully, when I was out there. I did keep hand warmers in here, thankfully, which I did use in my kind of personal kit or whatever. And then obviously, the orange kit, I didn't use my batteries per se, although I should have. So going back to my batteries and my timer, I didn't have spare batteries for the timer. And I did order some, but they didn't come in, so I didn't think too much of it. I could have used them. So I do need to put them in here, or they're sitting at home. I replaced the battery in here. My timer, my MDT timer for the NRL matches, NRL 22 matches, but I need to put a spare in here. And toolkit came in handy again to just tear stuff down. So Coltac, my ammo folder here, which is very helpful. I use this, of course, and I still have some rounds in here, and that worked fine for me. And clipboard, I did switch to a plastic clipboard. This plastic clipboard I ended up using for the match because the cardboard one got wet, and I figured this is better to have a plastic one when it rains. So that's what I ran with. So that's kind of it for things in the NRL Hunter Pro-Am. Not much happened as far as shooting pretty poorly. I am happy with my Zico, my ZC420. I have no complaints about it. The clarity, image quality is great. Depth of field is great. Everything is perfect on it other than the weight. So we did compromise on the weight here on this gun. Oh, speaking of weight, we didn't have to weigh in for the Pro-Am. So I know this is 11 pounds, 13 ounces configured as it is right now with everything on it, including this level and the MDT Crush It timer on the side attached to it. It's 11 pounds, 13 ounces, so I'm still open light. They didn't weigh me in, and we also didn't have the chronograph as the Pro-Am. So next year, assuming they keep the same format, you won't have to weigh in or chrono if you're an AM for power factor. Anything else I want to mention? Oh, my SkyPod worked fine. I think at the last year's Paulden match, which was called the Ghost Hunter, this thing like came apart and I had to reassemble it and, you know, fix it at the hotel after day 1. No problems on day 2. Before I came to the match, I actually tore it apart and cleaned everything. And I actually honed down the internals with fine grit sandpaper just to make sure there were no burrs, because there was a lot of grit in there. The sand was working that, and I wanted to make sure that everything was smooth. I know there was a guy in the squad behind me that was following us. He said he was on the stage, and he like kind of threw his leg out, like, you know, to extend it, and it shot straight off. And so that's kind of the things you have to worry about, the SkyPod triple pulls. And from what I understand, at that match, they are going to release a Gen 3 of the SkyPod triple pull. So look forward to that and spending another $1,000. And I heard they're going to fix some issues that people have found with this thing. I think the SkyPod triple pull is a very niche product, and I don't recommend buying it unless you're a gamer or you have specific uses. There's other options out there for you, but the SkyPod triple pull is definitely a gamer piece of equipment because it's just fast to deploy it in certain situations that, you know, it's very flexible. And I think in real world stuff, you may not need it. Like if you're a hunter, you can just go to your tripod. That's all I have to say about that, even though I have one. Just because I have one doesn't mean you should buy one. Just trying to think of other things that came about of the NRL Hunter Pro-Am, but I think that's kind of it. Everything else seems to work fine. Oh, and dust. Let's talk about dust. So the Arizona dust, definitely a lot like finer, and that thing got in everything. And so I didn't clean after day 1. All I did was pull my bolt out, wiped stuff off, like kind of wiped off the internals, didn't put any oil or grease, and just threw it back in there, my bolt, and that was that. Didn't mess with anything, and I ran fine. But when I got home, I used like a, not really compressor, but I shot CO2 because I have a CO2 tank, my power tank that I use in my Jeep. I just shot like all that stuff around here. Didn't get too close to the scope because you don't want to shoot fast air into that, because you can actually break stuff through seals with pressure. So you don't want to do it to your scope too much, but definitely around the rifle, and just get the dust off. And then I tore it down to wipe it all off. But that dust was very killer. All my gear, you can still see dust on my pack. It's kind of dusty on there, as well as my bino harness is all full of dust. But probably should wash this off or just hose it down, get this stuff off. But yeah, NRL Hunter Pro-Am didn't shoot too well, but I still, it's just the experience and just learning. It's just learning evolution. But we'll hopefully do better at the NRL Hunter Mason Valley match in a few weeks. But I'm ready to go for that. I think I do need to load some ammo though. I do need to load some rounds because I'm short. I only have like I have 110 rounds. Theoretically, I could shoot 20 stages if you don't shoot all 8 rounds, because you don't really shoot 8 rounds every time. So if you clean it, you should only need 80 rounds. But I'm going to go ahead and load, not 80 rounds. Yeah, you only need 80 rounds. What am I thinking? 20 stages, 4 rounds. Yeah, 80 rounds, assuming you clean it. But I'm going to go ahead and load some ammo before that, and then that will be that. Anyway, thanks for watching this. Hopefully you got some information out of it. And if you want to shoot the Pro-Am next year because you're really new to NRL Hunter, definitely give it a try, because I think it's going to be a good match for newer people to get started off, because you can learn really quickly with somebody helping you out.